This week in the show, we're covering the original found footage horror film, The Blair Witch Project. Stick around for maniacal serial killers, a ludicrous film shoot, and one of the most profitable films ever made. I'm David.
I'm Caolan.
And this is Two Men, the podcast.
Hey David.
Well, Caolan, how's things?
This is one of your favourite films.
This is my favourite horror film of all time.
Yeah, that's why I specify one of.
It's one of those films where every time I go back to watch it, I kind of temper my expectations, because I think, because of, the whole story around it, I think I'm overrating it in my head.
I think you are.
But every time I go back to it, it's so fucking good.
Yeah, I think you 100% are.
No, I'm definitely not.
But I do like it a lot. I just
Brilliant.
think it's ridiculous. This is the most interesting advertising I've ever seen.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it so much.
This will be the one time we actually talk about the film on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones yeah, the whole thing behind it is so much more interesting than the actual film.
Oh yeah, it's a standard found footage film.
It's a standard 99 found footage film as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have any of the there has been differences.
Yeah, but I think it's done much better than any other found footage film.
I don't know about any other.
Maybe
but
Cloverfield.
And I think maybe it's probably better done than Wreck, but I think Wreck's a scarier movie. Maybe just because it's more claustrophobic and more.
I suppose it's kind of a different thing. So Blair Witch Project is out in the woods, and this is in Wreck's in a confined area.
It's an apartment building full of undead zombies. Yeah, and in Spanish, which makes everything scarier.
Oh yeah.
Is it Spanish or?
Yeah, it's Spanish.
Yeah, but I don't want to offend Portuguese people if it's in a slightly different tongue of Spanish. What do you think of the Blair Witch Project, David?
Oh, it's just so great. I just love, because even I think the biggest problem with horror movies in general is two things: bad acting and poor decisions.
Yeah.
And I think the acting isn't always great in this, but when they're scared, they're terrified, and they sound terrified because they genuinely are. They've been left out in the woods.
They are petrified.
And when they're kind of doing the documentary shootings, they seem kind of wooden, but that works almost because
it absolutely works.
They're film students. They're supposed to be acting.
And the people they're interviewing they're supposed to be people on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
They think they're people on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that they're not the most charismatic interviews is probably what would happen.
It's something you would see.
People in our town.
Yeah.
They're going to be yeah, that is what happened. Yeah.
It is it's exactly what you see in news footage.
It's exactly that. Yeah. Well,
and I think
most news footage.
Yeah.
I've seen some charismatic news interviewers. Yeah, it's wonderfully done.
Yeah, it's just, and I think just everything about it just works.
Yeah,
perfectly.
I feel like it's one of those rare films where it gets a lot of hate it doesn't deserve just for being found footage, but it also gets a lot of love it doesn't deserve just for being one of the. I think it's a great movie, but it's not one of the best horror movies ever made.
I'd say it's one of the best. I wouldn't say it is
It is one of the best found footage movies ever made.
Oh, it is the best found footage movie ever made.
But I think it's a great movie.
It's so good.
It's definitely not a 0 out of 10, but it's not breaking the scale either.
10 out of 10. Especially for when you look at it. We talk about with Die Hard, where Die Hard kind of influenced so many action movies, where this has created the found footage.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first found footage movie, but it's
like the way Halloween wasn't the first slasher movie, but it's
definitely the one that just
genre.
picks up all up.
Yeah,
because especially when you think of how just completely erased from memory Cannibal Holocaust is.
Yeah, well, for some good reasons.
For understandable reasons, yeah. But I think if there's ever a film that benefits from people forgetting, we talked about Halloween and Friday the 13th lifting on from where Black Christmas left off, and no one talks about it. This is the exact same situation. I can see you itching to get into the lore, David, but before we get to that, I want to talk about the film itself a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
Heather
Donahue,
Michael and Joshua.
Yeah.
That they feel as awkward as they would be.
Yeah, exactly.
They feel like it doesn't feel like three friends going out because it's not meant to be three friends going out.
So
Josh is
the third one.
Yeah, Josh
so Heather's
is the
never
more
met Josh.
Temperamental one.
Yeah, and Mike and Heather, their backstory is they actually went out and they broke up, but when Josh disappears.
Yeah, towards the.
That was supposed to be Mike. But Josh and Heather were just constantly fighting.
Fuck off.
Yeah, and they just figured, right, Josh is getting too antagonistic, so they slipped him a note and just said, when everyone else falls asleep, wait 45 minutes and just leave.
Yeah, we'll get to this because I think the way it's filmed is so interesting.
Yeah, they weren't given a script. They were given a 35
page script.
but it wasn't
But
even
not a script,
of
like
lore.
a plot outline kind of thing.
Yeah, no, not even. They weren't even given anything. They were given a 35-page lore about the Blair Witch.
Sorry, that's what it is.
And then they were left very vague stage instructions.
Yeah, they were given
just,
like a trail to follow, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd walkie-talkies.
To get to like from this
basically,
campsite to the next by the night or whatever.
Yeah. So, for example, do you know when they walk south all day and they end up at the same log?
Yes.
They didn't actually know that was supposed to happen. So when they all get really fucking pissed off, they're actually genuinely furious because they've been out in the woods for like a week at this stage. And they've just after walking all day to end up in the exact same spot. And they were so pissed off. Like, why couldn't we just fucking film the next scene here?
Right, so it starts off pretty much as they come in.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It just starts off straight away in the... They're not in the forest, the first one. They stay in a cabin, is it?
Yeah, no, it starts off with Heather kind of filming herself and then going... And then Josh shows up.
Yeah, but
they're
in like a building.
They're in
sleep
Heather's
in a
house.
building the first. It's a house. Okay,
yeah, and then they go to a motel in Burkittsville.
Yeah, the motel's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because I knew that before they make their hike into the woods, they stay in a. I was thinking hotel, yeah, but a motel, yeah.
And then that's when they interview all the townspeople, who
before,
they thought were just
random
people. So they interviewed about half a dozen people, and then these planted
that's what
actors.
I was thinking. Do you know? Did they only interview the people that are used? Because I suspect they had to have found real people.
Yeah, I suspect they did.
Because they couldn't accidentally stumble upon every single one of them.
I assume what they did is they set up like, okay, we're going to interview the first 3 people we see coming out of the store, and then they had like 2 strangers who didn't know what the fuck there was on.
Because there has to be like footage lost of like
absolutely,
of some fella going like, I've never heard of this.
Never heard of this before.
Because it's not even like it's a real thing. That it's not like going to research Krampus in Sweden. Like this is made up lore.
Yeah. But
so it's not even like if you ask a stranger living around there, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, the Blair Witch, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But it was loosely based on the Bell Witch, which was a kind of like famous haunting in 1700s, 1800s, early 1800s. It was I want to say 1817, somewhere in the deep south, which is a fucking batshit crazy story as well. I'd highly recommend anyone look into that. Not very similar, but there's like enough kind of similarities to see where it came from.
I think Heather's class. When she's upset, she's upset.
Oh yeah,
like she breaks down.
Yeah,
several times.
Yeah.
Now,
to be fair, I'm not sure how much of that is acting.
No, I know.
Actual breaking down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see her in something else, just to see how much she brings to it. Because
well, she's no longer acting. She now runs a weed dispensary.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
What's her last role?
Apparently she found it very difficult to get work after this.
Her last role is in The Morgue in 2008. She's trapped in an overnight morgue with a demon.
Nice.
So her hauntings are kind of... She's in It's Always Sunny for an episode. Yeah, I think that last scene, towards the end, she's so good.
Yeah.
The last 20 minutes maybe. The scene where they're all running away in the forest.
Oh,
and they're like, oh shit, what is that?
Yeah.
Is great.
Yeah, and there was actually supposed to be a woman standing there.
Yes,
but the cameraman forgot to
forgets to look. Yeah,
and they just didn't bother recording it again because they just couldn't afford to.
It's ridiculous.
It's brilliant because they were out in the woods. They shot it over 8 days, and each day the cast got less food to up the tension between them. Yeah, it's
a ridiculous.
They all had to sign disclaimers that legally allowed the directors to mess with their heads. Like that was the wording of the documents was to mess with your head. So
it's ridiculous that this is an actual thing. You'd never see this.
No, absolutely not.
You will never see this. Fuck it. The amount of money this film makes.
It's absurd.
They return their cameras, don't they?
Yeah, that's how low a budget they were doing it. They bought the cameras and then they filmed it within the 30-day like money back guarantee and returned the cameras. Like
so good. I love that story. That's like just to absolutely maximize your budget return.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But like this was students. It was originally shot with a $60,000 budget, and then like when production companies came in, they like upped the budget to like 200,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm gonna let you jump in here because you can't see him, but he is literally itching at this piece of paper just to start reading. You have excerpts from the whole website here. It looks like, do you?
Yeah, I've done a bit of research on the whole kind of timeline of the Blair Witch.
Okay.
So, starting back in 1634, when Colonel Blair founds Fort Blair in the Black Hills, and then the town of Blair forms around this. Then in 1769, Ellie Kedward, who was an Irish immigrant, moves to Blair, and no one really knows what she got up to beforehand, but there's rumours that her mother died in childbirth and her father was killed and disemboweled in front of her, and then she was left for dead by soldiers, and she was taken in by an old hermit who taught her some of the occult. So this is where the rumour of that she's a witch comes in. So she moved to Blair, and then in 1785 she's taking blood from the children. Probably, no one knows why really, but she was accused of witchcraft, tied to a tree in the winter, and just left to die.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do, you know. So in the next year, all of her accusers and half the other children had disappeared. So all the children who accused her of being a witch and half the other children in this town had disappeared.
A lot of children.
That's a lot of children. So the people fled the town, just abandoned it.
Never mention her name ever again.
Yeah, pretty much. Until 1809, when a handwritten book of the cult of the Blair Witch is published. And this is the only written document talking about Ellie Kedward and the Blair Witch.
Is this an actual... Can you actually get this book now? Because I'm certain someone would have made this book.
Oh yeah, like as merchandise, yeah, I'd say definitely. Then in 1823, a railway worker finds the abandoned town of Blair and calls a property developer called Burkett, who rebuilds the town as Burkettsville. So that's settled in 1824, and in 1825 they're having a kind of a festival for their harvest, and Eileen Treacle is this little girl. She was about 10, I think. She fell into the river, and 11 witnesses claim they saw a white hand reach out and pull her in, which is just such a fucking creepy image.
Yeah.
In 6-inch deep
Don't
water.
like this, yeah.
And her body was never found. So, like, 6-inch deep water, it's difficult enough to drown in that.
And especially get lost.
Yeah, and not find the body. And then, in the week afterwards, the river became blocked with all these, like, oily bundles of sticks, and they couldn't drink the water for 2 weeks. And one man did drink the water and died. So it's just, then it goes quiet again, and then in 1886, this is the fucking creepiest story. It's Robin Weaver disappears, and they send out a search party to look for her.
This is the two men by the river talk about this girl, don't they?
Yeah, up on Coffin Rock. So they send the search party out, and Robin comes back before the search party, and she says she met this woman whose feet didn't touch the ground. And I love that as well. It's just like, it's something that a child would like describe as something else. But the search party never came back. So the woman took her out into the woods, took her to a cabin, and put her in the basement and said she'd be back she'd be back soon. After a couple of hours, no one had come back, so she crawled out a window and escaped. Search party still hadn't come back though, so they sent a second search party out. They found the first search party, naked, disemboweled, and their feet and hands like kind of tied together. So like one's hands were tied to the next one's feet in a kind of like a 5-pointed star, and they all had like these symbols carved into their foreheads and their hands and all this. So the second search party found these. Oh yeah, okay. Very dead. Yeah. The second search party found all these, went back to town to get help moving the bodies, and when they came back, bodies were gone. There was no blood anywhere, and this is Coffin Rock. Then the next big event was in 1941. 8 children went missing over the course of 6 months, and after 6 months, this kind of hermit, Rustin Power, who lived out in the cabin in the woods, he basically, when in his 20s, he went out to the cabin and he just decided, like he was kind of strange, but he was just kind of like someone who wanted to be left alone. Like there was never any warning signs, and he just walked in and just said, "I'm finished." And they said, "What do you mean?" And he basically confessed to killing 7 of the 8 children. When he had lived out in the woods, he'd lived there for a couple of years, when he saw a woman just stand in the woods, and it was like kind of autumn time, and she was just wearing a white dress, so he was like concerned that, what's she doing out here in the cold. So he called out and walked to her, and she just disappeared. And he was like, right, that's strange, but he ignored it and went on with his day.
A woman disappeared in the middle of the road, that's fine.
Fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. So he started seeing her more and more, and then he started having nightmares where it was just her voice just screaming at him, torturing him, and he'd wake up and realise, okay, it's just a nightmare. But then he started hearing it during the day, and it came to the point where it was just driving him insane. He just couldn't live anymore. And she said, right, I'll make you a deal. You do exactly what I say, and I'll leave you alone. So she told him to start kidnapping children, and then he'd kill them. So what he'd do is, he had this one kid, Kyle Brody, who he sat in the corner facing the wall, and he'd bring 2 more kids down, make one of them sit in the other corner, face the wall, and kill the third one, and then he'd kill the second child that was...
the other one against the wall.
Yeah. And Kyle Brody was sitting in the corner for all of this, and he was let live. And investigators have also claimed that he was possibly involved because he was the only one who knew the other 7 children. So like the other 7 children probably would have known 2 or 3 of the other kids.
They all knew this one kid.
They all knew this one kid, Kyle Brody. And he also drew occult symbols when he was locked in an insane asylum, and he then killed himself.
And that's fine.
Yeah. So Rustin Parr's cabin was burnt down very soon after this, and under the ruins of the cabin, underneath the layer of ash and rubble, and underneath undisturbed soil in 1995, that's where they found the tapes for the Blair Witch Project. And I just think it's just such a good kind of backstory, because it's one of those things where I'd believe that.
Absolutely.
I believe that, like, that's an urban myth.
Yeah.
It's so believable. It's not, like, absurd at any point. It's all stuff that, like, I can see people believe in.
Go to this website. They have, like, these images were released by the police.
Yeah.
And they have, like, images of, like, worn down 16mm tapes.
Yeah.
That are, like, we found under the cabin or whatever.
Yeah. And they've got tapes of Rustin Parr being interviewed.
Yeah.
And have you watched those tapes, actually?
I haven't got around to it, no.
They're creepy as fuck.
That's why I haven't got around to it, yeah.
He's just kind of like, do you regret what you've done? Rustin Parr's like, yes. And he's like, do you think God has forgiven you? Yes. And he's just like, it's...
terrifying.
Yeah, it's like, genuinely, if you told me that was a serial killer, I would 100% believe it. It's so well done.
I find all the effort going into stuff like this. It's so
incredible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Same with, you brought it up earlier, but it's like Cloverfield.
Yeah.
But Cloverfield uses the internet because it's more common.
Yeah.
This is, you have to actively hunt out all of this stuff to try and
these were like the early days of the internet. Like these, like on their IMDb page.
internet.
Yeah, exactly. Like on their IMDb page, they had the actors listed as missing, presumed dead. Like, it's
her mother received loads of, like, sympathy cards.
Yeah, her mother received sympathy cards from people who genuinely thought her daughter had died or gone missing in the Black Woods.
Right, you've touched on, I assume you know. How much do they know going into this, okay? So you're the actor, what do you know about what's going on?
They've been given essentially that timeline.
You just have a map. No, I don't mean about the logo. Sorry, yeah, I get that they have all that stuff. But I mean about what they do in the film. How much of that is planned?
They had a map. I don't even think they were given a compass. They had a walkie-talkie to give them directions, and each day they'd find these milk crates with, like, instructions. Do you know the night where the tent starts getting shaken?
Yes.
They didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think everyone knows about it. That's the one, like, that everyone tells about.
Yeah.
Like, they thought they were being attacked by
They didn't know that Josh was going to disappear.
Josh didn't know either.
Yeah, Josh was told the day of that he was going to disappear. All the kind of sounds they're making, the director set up speakers, and one of the directors is his mother was like his mother or his mother's friend ran a nursery, and basically he just recorded all the children like running around playing, and he just played it from a speaker and kind of moved around their campsite. They'd walk around snapping sticks and throwing them at them. The bundle that they find with Josh's, like, tongue and teeth, those are real human teeth. It's real bits of Josh's hair, and they didn't know that was coming.
So that's fine.
Yeah, so she just opened that, and she was like, "What the fuck's that?" And she opened it, and there was actual human teeth in there.
That's grim. You can't do this now. You just can't.
No,
you could barely get away with that then, let alone now. That is ridiculous.
I should point, the teeth were legally obtained from a dentist.
I would assume, yeah. They weren't just...
He didn't just smash someone
to save a budget, he ripped his own teeth out. Yeah, that's it. It's so interesting to me, all this stuff.
I love it. It's so good.
It does make the film 10 times better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without the backstory, this film would not be...
It's just the base. This film spawns what? There's Book of Shadows, is it?
Yeah, which is awful.
Which is, yeah... they go into town and stuff in that one. There's, like, they visit shop and I remember they going into a 7-Eleven or something like.
Yeah, and like all the fucking villagers are like staring at them, like just giving them weird look. It's so bad.
I've seen Book of Shadows. I haven't seen there's a 2018 reboot.
2016.
Yeah, I haven't seen this
by Adam Wingard. Yeah, it's by Adam Wingard. It's quite good. It's by Adam Wingard, who did You're Next.
Is it a remake or a reimagining?
No, it's a sequel. So what happens is Heather's brother sees, pretty much, but he's kind of like always kept an eye out for this, and someone posted a video on YouTube saying that they found this footage by the Black Hills. So he sees it and he contacts the people who put it up, and they all go into the woods looking for it. The kind of lore it delves into is very similar to the 2018 Blair Witch game, which these have kind of expanded onto this kind of weird kind of temporal.
Yeah, the game, you've played the game as well.
Yeah.
Then they're the same idea.
Yeah, they both expand on like this weird kind of time manipulation thing that the witch can do, because you know the cabin they go to in the end of the movie?
Yes.
That's Rustin Parr's cabin, which was burnt down in 1948, was it? Yeah, in the 1940s, it was the cabin that was burnt down, but somehow that cabin's still standing. That cabin is also presumably the one that Robin Weaver was taken to in the 1880s. So it's this kind of thing that this cabin, like, it was only built in the 1920s, but somehow it's appearing back and forth. And the bag with the films that the Blair Witch was found under that cabin in undisturbed soil. So it's, like, not possible for it to be there. So that's this kind of, like, weird time manipulation thing that the witch does, and it's kind of built up and expanded in
several more.
Yeah.
Right. Have you seen the other film that this has spawned, David?
I don't think so.
3 years later, another short comedy by students called The Blair Thumb.
No, I haven't.
A trio of eager and intrepid college student filmmakers venture into the woods to make a documentary about the legendary Blair Thumb. Naturally, they get hopelessly lost and find themselves in considerable jeopardy. And by the looks of it, it's just the Blair Witch.
But with a thumb.
Thumbs. Like, I'm going to show you the image here. You obviously can't see it on the podcast, but it's just the characters are thumbs.
The characters are thumbs. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be kind of like, what's that movie where your man's hand gets cut off and the hand is like cursed and it goes around strangling people?
That is an episode of South Park that I don't think you're...
Okay, well, I thought it was going to be like that episode of South Park.
This is the episode of South Park where Cartman draws his hand as a Mexican woman.
I thought there was an
I know
actual
you.
movie.
Oh no, it's not what you're talking about. You definitely have an idea, yeah. But when you say a hand that does things, Steen, maybe he's the car. If that's what you're thinking of.
No, there's definitely a hand.
Film
With
where
killer hand.
With killer hand content.
Yeah.
The Hand.
The Hand. Is it just called The Hand?
It's just called The Hand.
I haven't seen this movie. I've just heard of it.
Yeah, it looks like it's just The Hand with Michael Caine.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, it's a hand. A killer hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Blair Thumb. There's a documentary came out 2 days before the film. Is it? Or 3 days?
Yeah, it came out, I don't know when, but just before.
It's like the same week, just to promote the idea that the Blair Witch is a real thing.
Yeah, and essentially had these like proper interviews that it just looks like a true crime documentary with the proper interviews with, the sheriff of Blair and all this shit.
That's an insane level of commitment to a 600 to a broke money budget.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I love
ridiculous. It. We like it, David.
Yes.
It's one of your favourite horror movies of all time.
Yes, it is.
What does IMDb think of it?
Oh, I'd imagine they've got some opinions.
As we look at the IMDb user reviews. Now see, I seem to have stumbled onto a new thing here because a lot of these reviews don't have ratings.
Oh, okay.
So I had to leave out some funny ones.
Right.
There was some very good titles, but with no rating, so I couldn't question you on them.
Oh, okay.
This is the game where we ask David for the IMDb reviews and he guesses the score because IMDb users apparently don't recognise how to use it.
Yeah, we're not on the same wavelength, me and IMDb users.
Review number 1. Horror is in the eye of the beholder.
6 out of 10.
10.
10 out of 10. Okay, right.
Man loves it. What's there left to be said, really?
10 out of 10.
No, that's his follow-up.
Oh, that's his follow-up.
That's
okay,
his
right.
follow-up. Disturbing movie.
1 out of 10.
On the dot, David.
Got it.
On the dot.
Because no one writes disturbing movie if they enjoyed it. If they enjoyed it, they would have written more.
Yeah, or it would be disturbing movie in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't your typical horror movie by a long shot.
9 out of 10.
4.
What?
The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of the Blair Witch Project is bone-chilling. The second is amazingly creative. This isn't a slasher film full of blood and gore. It's something entirely different. It's frightening.
And that's a 4 out of 10. This person just hates horror movies.
Yeah, I don't. It's bone-chilling and insanely creative. 4.
4 out of 10.
This is where I think he might think 4 out of 5. We make this a lot that these people don't understand.
They don't realise it's out of 10.
I haven't put reviews in, so I can't stress that I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, I don't know how difficult it is.
One more review, David.
Right.
I want to avoid any cheese.
2 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
That's a more positive review than amazingly creative.
And bone-chilling.
I feel like I am the last person on the planet to have seen this film, and I could have left it off my bucket list. This is the mother of handheld genre, with Heather Donahue being the cut-off face that launched 1,000 films. 6 out of 10.
I
don't like spoilers. He says in the warning.
Spoilers, yeah.
What? Warning. Spoilers. That concludes IMDb user reviews. We're still yet to get approached by a band for these jingles.
Yeah.
Mumford & Sons have yet to contact us.
They've ignored my DM, so I don't know what
Every week on this podcast I will call for a new band.
Yeah.
So Mumford & Sons, please contact. I assume you have your customary 1 or 2 film TV shows.
Yes. Okay. My parental guidance.
Parental guidance warning.
Yeah. Right. The violence in this movie is quite inconsistent and tame.
Wolf of Wall Street.
A man stands nude on a rooftop with legs and feet spread apart in the daytime. We see full frontal nudity, including pubic hair, testicles, and penis. It is at a distance, however.
It Follows.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this movie in ages, so I wasn't sure how obvious that would be, but I definitely remember that scene.
Yeah, that's a scene quite towards the end of the movie. What were your follow-up hints?
My follow-up hints were, infrequent profanity is present throughout, some of which alludes to sexual situations.
That is way less helpful.
Again, I hadn't seen this movie in ages, so I wasn't 100%
I feel like you may have undersold how.
Yeah. That's a really iconic shot, is it?
That is probably the iconic shot, apart from her in the car, maybe.
Fair. Underage kids drink liquor out of a flask, and they also mix it in their soda can.
Yeah, you're reading now and you realise that these are way more vague.
Yeah. A fully nude woman is seen walking towards the main character. She displays full frontal nudity briefly. Her breasts and pubic region are clearly shown.
Yeah, okay, that is the most obvious hint.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. Great movie.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Two men driving a car are shot at multiple times by hoodlums with assault rifles.
Hoodlums with assault rifles.
I'm a big fan of the word hoodlums.
Hoodlums, yeah. Great film. Great film.
Great.
Is it a film or a show?
Can't tell you that.
That gives it away.
Well, no, but that's not the rules. You get the clues and that's it.
Well, no,
Yep.
Too vague. I don't know. Sons of Anarchy.
No. References to marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. Marijuana is seen being grown, smoked, and heroin is seen being prepared.
Breaking Bad. Not heroin in Breaking Bad, it's meth.
Oh, there is heroin as well.
Yeah, but it's not the main drug. They would have said meth.
Yeah,
in that
probably,
review.
yeah. Probably about 30 to 40 cunts, as it is set in England. Now, I don't know if that's cunts the word, or just cunts, as in people who are cunts.
Right, so it's probably a British show.
Probably.
Or a film.
Probably.
Snatch.
Nope. A man single-handedly roughs up a group of young hoodlums armed with knives. Roughs up. Young hoodlums.
Hoodlums with knives. And this isn't one you've done already.
No.
Like a British show with heroin, knives gang, machine guns. No, at cars. Was that not this one?
Oh, assault rifles. Man is run over by a train off screen. We hear a crunch sound.
I wish that helped me a lot. It's definitely going to be one of these things where I've not seen it.
You definitely have seen it because we've covered it on the show.
We have?
Yeah. The Gentleman.
I thought we'd done this as one of them already.
No, you guessed it as one of them. I think when I brought something else. I brought something else that had cunt in it. Okay. And as soon as you heard the word cunt, you guessed The Gentleman. And that's actually probably 30 to 40 cunts I had as the first clue. But because I thought of that, I was like, I'll push that down the list.
Okay, no, yes. I thought of The Gentleman when you said cunt again.
Yeah.
Because that's the film I think of.
Yeah.
But I assumed we had used it already.
Yeah, no, because I can't remember what the film was, but there was another film that I used a clue that it was cunt, and you were like, oh, it's do you know what? It might have been Children Men, where it said something about British slurs.
Yeah, okay.
Like wanker.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, maybe because I guessed it, I would have swore we used The Gentleman.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to guess The Gentleman. Okay, right. I feel hard done by there, just by my own psyche. But I got It Follows. That's one out of two is my best. I will get 2 out of 2 one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days.
Let us know, did you get 2 out of 2? I suspect you might have, yeah. David, you've brought a recommendation for the listeners this week.
I have. Right, so this is a movie that was added to Amazon Prime recently.
Okay.
Called Colour Out of Space.
Right.
Written by H.P. Lovecraft in like the 1930s or wherever the fuck he was alive.
Yeah, okay.
Known racist H.P. Lovecraft.
Told me about this film last week, I believe.
And starring the one and only Nick Cage in such a Nick Cage role. And it's just brilliant. So it's basically Nick Cage is living on a farm with his wife and kids. Then there's this weird explosion during the night. And it's a meteor that's crashed to Earth. And then just weird shit starts happening. Just all over the place. And Nick Cage starts losing his shit. He just starts he's got a load of fucking giant, weird, ugly ass tomatoes. And he starts biting into each one and then throwing them in the bin. And just slam dunking them into the bin in front of his wife, and his wife is very visibly upset, and he doesn't care. And it is bread and butter for Nick Cage, and it is.
David, you would consider yourself a graduate of the Nicolas Cage Good or Bad class, would you?
Yes, he is.
I believe so.
He is brilliant.
Okay, you've settled this. Nicolas Cage fighting colours in space.
Yeah, because the alien is just a colour.
It's just a big blob of.
No, it's not even a blob. It is just the colour.
But what is it a big like colour, or is it just air?
It's just a colour. So it lives down the bottom of the well, and like
Yes, but is it a liquid color?
it's just the color. So like it like infects things and gives them a kind of like a
Do they turn into
purpley
the
huge.
color?
Yeah, well no, they
What
so
is
like
the color?
that's the alien.
What color is it?
Oh, it's kind of like a magenta.
Okay. So if it infects things, does it turn them magenta?
It turns in, yeah, so like for example, there's like a praying mantis, which becomes this really weird praying mantis with a kind of like purple hue on it. It's
So
very
just
good.
look out for purple animals.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Is
giant.
it in space or does it come from space?
It comes from space.
Because I'm gonna say I don't remember reading about many praying manti up there.
No. Nick Cage also not in space in this film, unfortunately.
So, it's a color out of space.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said colored out space.
No. Colored out
So I
of
was
space.
thinking Nicolas Cage fighting colors in space is exactly what I want, but you've ruined that.
Yeah, but what I will say is, do you remember in The Thing, kind of when all the dogs get merged together?
Yeah.
If you enjoyed that, you'll love this film.
Okay, so I'll hate this one. I enjoy that image, but it's haunted me.
Yeah. Oh, this is so much worse.
Okay.
It happens with alpacas,
Oh.
and it happens with people.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Oh,
I can
no,
put
it's
up
not.
with it with people. When the Thing merges people in the Thing,
Yeah.
it's doable. I can't watch dogs, and alpacas are a no-go. So I apologise, David, but I will not be watching this.
Well, it's your loss. Great film.
Color out of space.
Yeah. On Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime, right. Nicolas Cage fighting colours in space. Not in space. Colours from space.
On his farm.
On a farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
He lives.
Nicolas Cage
it's an
has made
alpaca
what,
farm.
like 200 films?
Far more. He's made thousands
He
of
has
films.
like
Because
a certain amount.
he kept running out of money, and he had to do all these shitty, like, low budget films.
Look up Nicolas Cage.
While if you're looking for an absolutely awful, like, ridiculously bad Nicolas Cage film, I'd recommend Between Worlds, which is at one point he slaps himself in the ass and says "Giddy up." So I mean, I don't think I need to sell you any more of that.
He is involved in 354 titles.
Good lord, as an actor.
He's in 137 movies, 11 TV movies, 99 TV series, 7 TV shorts, 37 TV specials, and 60 videos. That's too many involvements, Nick.
It's far too many. But the man's got a problem.
He's in 2 films in 2020 that
Oh,
I've
is he?
not heard of.
Yeah, you never hear of any of them because
He's
they're
in
all like,
Jiu-Jitsu,
oh, that's awful. I've seen that.
and he's in The Croods: A New Age,
Yeah,
which looks like a kid's film,
Jiu-Jitsu.
with Emma Stone and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh God, right.
He was in
No, Jiu-Jitsu
was
is
in-
he's a martial arts
5
expert.
films in 2019. 6
God.
films in 2019.
But Jiu-Jitsu, he's a martial arts expert who has to train another martial arts expert to fight an alien that comes to Earth every like 100 years to fight its greatest warriors. It's excellent.
He's a funny sort, him.
He's a character, all right.
He's a character, that guy. He had 6 films in 2019, 6 films in 2018, and 2 in 2020. So he's cut down his output.
The pandemic hit him hard.
He has 5 upcoming projects.
Of course he fucking does.
Untitled Nicolas Cage Amazon project.
Oh, nice.
Untitled Joe Exotic project.
Oh yeah, he's playing Joe Exotic.
That's perfect. He's in Pig. A truffle hunter who lives alone in the Oregon wilderness must return to his past in Portland. He's a janitor in Willy's Wonderland, and he is in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is
his
about
autobiography.
him.
Yeah.
A cash-strapped Nicolas Cage agrees to make a paid appearance at a billionaire superfans party.
Oh, it's
but
literally
is-
about him.
But is really an informant for the CIA since the billionaire fan is a drug kingpin and gets cast in a Tarantino movie.
I joked that it was about him, but it's
No,
actually
he plays himself.
He plays
yeah.
himself. Oh, good God!
It also has Pedro Pascal,
I do like
Neil
that.
Patrick Harris,
Mm.
Tiffany Haddish, and a few other people that I recognise but not from anything but in particular. I'll look out for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent in 2021.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
brilliant.
Where can people find us to write in about Nicolas Cage, David?
Yeah, people can find us at 2men1pod on Twitter, 2menapod on Instagram, and contact us at 2menapod@gmail.com.
Where you can contact us about next week's film, which is Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street,
Yes.
out on the 24th as a request from a birthday fan.
Yeah.
So we will see you next week for the Jonah Hill masterpiece.
Yes. Wolf of Wall Street.
See you then.
See you next week.